Now, when you look at the seven trumpets, I feel that they are still a future fulfillment. And in order to prove that, I have to go through Josiah Lynch and Ellen White. Now, we're going to study what Ellen White said later in her life on the trumpet. So this is not a bashing Ellen White, great controversy to our church at all. You're going to be surprised in her later life, some of the views she had on Revelation, the seals and the trumpets, that we are unaware of. She did endorse Josiah Lynch's August 11, 1840. She said that the fall of the Ottoman Empire fulfilled his prediction. And that's about all she says about it in her writings early on. She never said that his prediction fulfilled the fifth and sixth trumpets. She never said that. So we read into that. So you're going to get a history lesson today for church members, visitors. Hold on. And it starts with a chart by Josiah Lynch. He was a Methodist pastor, became a follower of William Miller in the 1830s. He was reading through the trumpets. Jesus was coming in 1844. So that means that the trumpets had to be fulfilled before Jesus came. That's what all of the end of the Revelation had to be fulfilled before 1844, because that was the second coming. And here's the thing. It was so obvious to them that they would be fulfilled before the second coming that it just captivated them. And they're right. They were absolutely right. Those prophecies are to be fulfilled before the second coming, but not before Jesus became a high priest. But they didn't get it, and they never really did get it. But Ellen White did get it later on. We'll look at those. So he found the fifth trumpet. There was 5 months where the locust would be hurting people. And he said, what's a day for a year? That's 150 years. So that's at the top there, 150 years in verse 5 and 10 of chapter 5. So that was a 150-year prophecy. And then he came to chapter 6, and there was an hour, a day, a month, and a year where angels would be released. So he turned that into a day for a year, and that came up to 391 years and 15 days when you add it all together. So that's where the 391 and 15 days. So what he did is he started looking in history, and he found a date in July 27th, 1299, where Osman I begins in the invasion of the Byzantine Empire, and that was the rise of the Ottoman Empire. And since in the sixth trumpet it talks about the river Euphrates, where the angels were bound, he's thinking that's the unleashing of the Ottoman Empire, because the river Euphrates originates in Turkey. So this has to be a Turkish thing before Jesus comes. And the Ottoman Empire would fall in a great war. So July 27th, 1290, that was the beginning of the power of the Ottoman Empire. Then it came to 449 AD, 5 months later, 150 years, that was the fifth trumpet. Constantine the 11th yields Byzantine political independence, I believe, to the Ottoman Empire. Then he added the year, month, day, and hour, 391 and 15 days, that the Ottoman Empire would come to an end, and Jesus would come. So the fall of the Ottoman Empire was a sign that Jesus would come. And let's find out the history of what these people really believed. This is in August 1st, 1840, Josiah Lynch, and here's what he says. The closing up of the Day of Grace. And there has been much inquiry of late on the subject of the closing up of the Day of Grace or probation. So probation never started with the Adventist Church. The close of probation actually started with the Millerites and Joseph Smith. So they thought that August 11th, 1840 was the close of probation. Because it's very clear when you look at the trumpets, especially the sixth trumpet, that is the close of probation. They understood that. They're absolutely right. I am a Lynchite, honestly. And I didn't know this. I learned all this later. I learned this first from my own Bible study. And then I started learning about what Ellen White wrote in her later life on the trumpets. And what Lynch believed at that time frame, he had the event right, he just had the timing wrong. William Miller had an event that was right, but he had the timing wrong. Is Jesus coming in glory? in fire. When? 1844? No, later on. So these guys had the event right. They just never understood about an investigative judgment before the second coming. So I believe what they believe. I do. So don't throw eggs or apples or tomatoes at me today when I go through this, because there's really quite a interesting The Truth is Stranger Than Fiction on Josiah Rich. I'll put that seed in there when we go through and what they really believe and then what happened. He says here, continuing on, with some remarks, and leave our readers to judge for themselves. Revelation chapter 10, verse 7, but in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God shall be finished, as he hath declared to his servants the prophets. So that came right after the sixth trumpet, and they understood that probation would close, that there'd be no more day of grace, and Jesus would come. So that's what they thought was going to happen on August 11, 1840, that was going to happen here. It would appear from this that upon the fall of the Turkish Empire, which will take place at the closing up of the sixth vial and trumpet, that the day of probation would close. So they believed on August 11, 1840, that the sixth vial, the sixth plague would be poured out, that the seventh trumpet, that the trumpet would, the sixth trumpet would close probation. Basically, the earth was done. The earth was going to be completely annihilated and destroyed at that point. That's what they taught. So the fall of the Ottoman Empire was the destruction of the Ottoman Empire in a great war that was going to happen. And then he says again in Revelation chapter 11, verse 15, and the seventh angel sounded, and there would be great voices in heaven saying, the kingdom of this world are become the kings of our Lord and of his Christ, he shall reign forever and ever. So at the end of the sixth trumpet, beginning of the seventh trumpet, Jesus would come and reign as a king. And that the kingdom would come. So that's what they were waiting for. That's what they expected. That's what they were teaching. That Jesus was coming at that time. And the sixth vial was the sixth plague. So the plagues, that means 5 plagues were already poured out before this. If that's what they're saying. Now this is from the Signs of the Times back in 1840. And someone gave me those recently. So they're still out there. Then he continues on. This most certainly closes up the gospel dispensation and brings us to the glorified state. So that means the gospel dispensation ended. And what does it mean, the glorified state? When Jesus comes, what happens to our bodies? Yeah, we're going to be translated. We're going to have a changed body. So they were expecting to get immortal life in August 11th, 1840. So the Ottoman Empire would be completely destroyed, the earth would be completely destroyed, the plagues would be poured out, Jesus would come, probation would close, and we would all be glorified with a new body. So that's what the Bible says and teaches, and that's what we believe as a church. We believe that as a church, right? Amen. We believe Jesus is coming with fire, probation will close, the plagues will be poured out, and we'll get new bodies. Amen. So Josiah Rich, in one way, was way ahead of his day, but another way, he just didn't understand the timing. So he was partly right, partly wrong. William Miller, same thing, partly right, partly wrong. There's a reason, chapter 10, with the angel coming down with the book. John ate the book. It was what? Sweet in his mouth, and it's a reason it's after the sixth trumpet. The Great Disappointment, because the Great Disappointment just wasn't 1844, it was also the trumpets and the seals. So the Great Disappointment, God leaves at the end of the sixth trumpet to tell them, you need to go back. This is prophesy again. You need to go back and you need to work these things out again. You didn't quite get it right. You were partially right, but partially right is not close enough. Then he continues on here. Allowing the first period, 150 years, to have been exactly fulfilled before Dionys ascended to the throne by commission of the Turks, and that the 391 years and 15 days commenced at the close of the first period, It will end on the 11th of August, 1840. So that's the great prediction. That's what everyone was looking for. When the Ottoman power in Constantinople is expected to be broken. And this, I believe, will be found to be the case. So that was his belief, now in the breaking of the Ottoman Empire. The breaking of the Ottoman Empire was its destruction. That's what they believed. The plagues would come, probation would close, it'd be a great war, and that would end it. Now here's what William Miller believed. Mr. Miller, in his next lecture, makes the following remarks. And whoever lives until the year 1839 will see the final dissolution of the what? Turkish Empire. So they were teaching the fall of the Ottoman Empire was its complete destruction. That's what they believed. That's what they were teaching, because it's clear in the Sixth Seal, there's a great war where an army of 200 million people, army of 200 million is going to kill a third of the earth. So they understood that to be the final great battle on this planet, mainly involving the Ottoman Empire being disillusioned, done away with, overthrow, the final overthrow of the Ottoman Empire. Then he continues on. And then will the seventh trump and last woe begin, under which the kingdoms of the earth and else anti-Christian beasts will be what? Doesn't it say that at that time when Jesus comes back, he'll take the beast and throw him into the lake of fire? Chapter 19. So they're changing again. Chapter 19, the seventh trumpet, sixth trumpet, they're putting them together, they're building a case, and it actually fits. Biblically, it fits. Quite extraordinarily, what they're saying is fit. It's fit because it says, the anti-Christian beast will be destroyed, and the powers of darkness what? What chapter is that when the powers of darkness is chained? What happens to Satan at the beginning of the millennium? An angel comes down and what? So now he's tying in chapter 20. So these guys are actually pretty right on in their interpretation of what's going to happen before the second coming. Really, they're right. They're absolutely right. And that's what made it so hard for them to ever try to back out of it, because they knew biblically it fit. You just know, you got it when you got it. You just know it. And they knew it. So the power of the darkness changed, and what happens to the world? Cleansed, Jesus is coming with fire, and the church purified. We're taken up and we're living with him forever. So they actually had their ducks in a row. And these guys are not bad guys. They were just trying to make sense out of these prophecies like we are today. The seven trumpets is the longest prophecy in the Bible. It's the most symbolic prophecy in the Bible. And I think it's one of the most important prophecies in the Bible, myself. The trumpets are warned. Now here's another one out of Sons of the Time, November 1st, 1840. Predictions, nothing short of one universal blaze of war all over the old world can be anticipated. So they were looking for a what? Blaze of war all over the old world. So they were looking at the last, the great day of battle of God Almighty in chapter 16. It must and will come, and for it the nations are mustering. They're continuing on. And he says, what are the facts? Why? That on the 15th of August, the Sultan, by the ambassador, presented to Pasha of Egypt the ultimatum of the four powers. Now, I didn't know this existed until recently. I didn't know that, because what happened was, basically nothing happened on August 11th, 1840. You look at the history, the only people that say anything happens on that day, and that is Seventh-day Adventists. They're quoting great controversy, they're quoting Daniel Revelation, but they quote no historical records. This is Josiah Litch. He said that the Ottoman Empire would fall on August 11th, 1840 with a blaze of fire. Did that happen? Now he's saying on the 15th, says what, that on the 15th of August, the Sultan, by his ambassador, presented to the Pasha of Egypt the ultimatum of the four powers, he replied by an oath of God, or in other words, in the name of God, I sign the death warrant of the Ottoman Empire. An oath be God, I will not give up 1 foot of the land I possess, and if the powers make war upon me, I will turn the empire upside down and be buried in this room. Mehmet Ali. He was an Egyptian who was fighting with the Ottoman Empire, and he was winning. He actually captured the Ottoman Empire fleet. He actually had them. So what had to happen was France, Russia, Austria, and Prussia were worried that if Egypt won the battle, that it would destabilize Europe. So those four joined together and said, we're going to oversee and protect the Ottoman Empire and keep it afloat. We need the Ottoman Empire. Actually, what they did is they actually bolstered up and protected the Ottoman Empire from Egypt. And this Mehmet Ali was mad because these four powers wanted the Ottoman Empire to sign on to the treaty, and they wanted Egypt to sign on to the treaty, that Egypt would back off and leave the Ottoman Empire alone. He's saying, an oath be to God, I will not give up 1 foot of land I possess. If the powers make war upon me, those four powers, I will turn the empire upside down and be buried in its ruins. So he was saying he didn't want to sign it because he knew he could beat the Ottoman Empire. But those four other empires, Russia, France, Prussia, and Austria, just would not let the Ottoman Empire fall. So let me back up here. So what happened on the 15th of August, that's when the Ottoman Empire, and I believe Egypt, signed the treaty. They signed the treaty that the Ottoman Empire would be left alone. And actually what that treaty did, it actually bolstered, protected, and built up the Ottoman Empire, and it saved it from a fall. Now, why am I saying the 15th? Because this is the date that Josiah lived after nothing happened on August 11, 1840. Something happened in his brain where he said, oh, that's what the fall of the Ottoman Empire is. They're going to sign a treaty with those four other nations to be protected. Oh, that's the fall of the Ottoman Empire there. Did you know that? So actually, Josiah Litch, if this is true, he missed August 11th, his prophecy by 4 days. So nothing happened on August 11th, 1840. Seventh-day Adventists are the only people who say anything happened. You can go look it up. Leslie, how many hours have I spent on the web? Many. Document people who wrote about the Ottoman Empire, timelines of the Ottoman Empire, articles on the Ottoman Empire, and zero for August 1840. In any of those articles, any of those historical records, nothing happened on August 40th. You can check me out. Bring it to me. If I'm wrong, print it out and show it to me. Now, when you go to Adventist websites, some of them are so slick, they look like they're professional websites. Until you see a bar up there, great controversy. Alfred Adventist literature. But even when you read those literatures, there is absolutely no, like this is from the Signs of the Times. And this is from Josiah Litch himself, and he's declaring that it was the 15th of August the Sultan and his ambassadors presented to Puck of Egypt an ultimatum of the four powers and signed it. So, can I tell you the truth is stranger than fiction? So basically what Josiah Litch did is he changed the date and he changed the event. The original date was August 11th, 1840. The event was the destruction of the Ottoman Empire and the world, probation would close, the plagues would fall, Jesus would come, and we would be in a glorified state. That's what they believed. But when something went wrong with the date and nothing happened, all of a sudden, he said, oh, they signed a treaty. That's the fall of the Ottoman Empire. But when you read the history, you know what they say about that treaty? That was the help of the Ottoman Empire. It actually bolstered it up and kept it from falling because Egypt was going to take them out. So it wasn't the fall of the Ottoman Empire, it was actually the strengthening of the Ottoman Empire because the allies were there with it. Allies are to strengthen each other, right? And actually, a few years later, when Egypt attacked, those powers actually helped the Ottoman Empire when they won the war. Here's Josiah Litch again. Finally, it is a very striking fulfillment of the calculation, for the decision was but 4 days after the 11th of August. So he missed his prediction by what? He admits it, folks. He said earlier that the 11th of August was a set time to the day according to the prophecy. For the decision was but 4 days after the 11th of August, the period fixed by the termination of the prophecy. The like singular accuracy of the fulfillment of a prophetic period cannot be found in history. Will men lay it to heart? So he's still thinking that the Ottoman Empire signing treaty to join in with Russia, France, Prussia, and Austria was the fall of the Ottoman Empire. Let's keep going here. Signs of the Times, November 1st, 1840. Now I'm using these historical documents. These are the signs of the times. Today we call it Times. We have our Signs of the Times magazine. This was a forerunner for it. This was a Millerite paper for the day's event. The time is given as near, and this is Josiah Litch again. The time is given as near as it could be, unless a prophet had descended to reckon by minutes, an hour a day, a month, and a year. An hour is 15 days. The Ottoman power was given into the hands of the four powers just 4 days after the expiration of the time given by the prophet. So he's saying 4 days is close enough. Is 4 days close enough? No, it's not close enough. Because it doesn't fit the 391 years and 15 days. He was 4 days off. Actually, we're going to show he was way more than that off here in a minute. So the 4 days would make just 16 minutes. So we have the fulfillment as near as it could be given in prophetic time. Well, why didn't God give him extra 4 days in the time prophecies? So he missed it by 4 days. And again, there's no historical record that anything happened on August 11, 1840. Here's a quote about the Seven Trumpets in the Estate Bible Commentary. So it goes through the Josiah Litch account, which our church basically follows. It's not a pillar of our church, it's just something that we believe. And here's what it says about the Seven Trumpets. It should be made clear, however, that commentators and theologians in general have been greatly divided over the meaning of the fifth and sixth trumpets. This has been going on in our church for over 100 years. Church members like me are raising up and saying, wait a minute, it doesn't check out. 4 days, he missed it by 4. His prophecy did not come about. Turkey signing a treaty to be protected and join in an alliance with those four powers is not what they were teaching originally, that the earth would be destroyed and there would be changed and given immortal lives. And so they changed the time and they changed the event to try to make their prophecy fit. So it says here, it should be made clear, however, that the commentators and theologians in general have been greatly divided over the meaning of the fifth and sixth trumpets. This has been due principally to problems in 3 areas: the meaning of the symbolism, the meaning of the Greek, the historical events and dates involved. So that's all been a subject of conflict and controversy in our church. This has been going on for quite a long time. So I'm not alone in this. There have been people and administrators and church leaders for hundreds of years who have spoken up and said, it's not right. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. Then it continues on, but to canvass adequately these problems will carry us beyond the space limits permissible in this commentary. Generally speaking, Seventh-day Adventist interpretation of the fifth and sixth trumpets, particularly as touching the time period involved, is essentially that of Josiah Litch. And Ellen White held that view at least twice, we know, 1888 Great Controversy and the 1911 Great Controversy. She does write in those books about Josiah Litch, which he doesn't mention him anywhere else. Life sketches, early writings, and the testimonies, she just doesn't touch that prophecy. And when people ask about it, you ever seen the book 101 Questions on Ellen White, put up by the E.G. White Estates? It's a very nice little book where people have questions about it. When they get to this section about Josiah Litch and Ellen White, they actually write that Ellen White is just giving a historical account of the Millerite movement, not necessarily endorsing his prediction. So there are many problems with Josiah Litch's timeline. First of all, there was no probation closed on August 11th, 1840. There were no plagues, there was no fire, no destruction of God of an empire. There was no great war, no destruction of the beast, no chaining of Satan. The earth was not purified, the Christians were not glorified. We did not begin to reign forever and ever. There was no second coming. History records nothing happened on that day. Are you in shock? Are you in shock? I was in shock. In the last couple of weeks of researching this, I have lost a lot of nights' sleep in my house pacing over what I'm learning. I've always believed the trumpets were future, but I didn't understand the signs of the times articles until recently when I started digging in and got what they really believed. It was just shocking for me. It was disturbing for me, to be honest. But I just have to remember they were doing the best they could with what they had. They had no evil intent. They were not deceived. They were just like us, trying to make sense out of this so super symbolic prophecy. I mean, it's locusts with hair of woman and crowns and mouths, lions' mouths and wings and a tail and stings like scorpions, and it's just an unbelievably symbolic prophecy. So I don't give any of them any evil intent for me. I mean, I got to cut them a lot of slack because I'm struggling with this book myself. So they were just trying to make sense. Jesus was coming in 1844, and they were so engulfed with that thought, they were trying to fit everything they could before the second coming as proof that Jesus was coming. So anyways, I got to cut Josiah Litch and the Millerites and all them. I just got to be patient with them and just believe that they were trying to do their best. Here's Spicer. He was a church leader back in the 1940s. And I just want to give, just to show that this has been a long-standing concern in our church. And this is November 30, 1940. I will also enclose some material on the dates of the prophetic periods of Revelation 9. Some time ago, Professor Prescott and I went to the Library of Congress and looked up the history of, now I have a hard time with this word, is it Pythagoras? Can anybody say it better than me? Okay. Translated into Latin by Pausanias. It is from this book that Gibbon got his date, July 27th, 1299. Now, this is where Josiah Litch got the starting date for the start of the Ottoman Empire, was from Gibbon. A very well-known and respected authority. So that gives the beginning of the 5 months. Now, why I'm doing this is to show that there's problems all the way through that people in our church have raised up and said, hey, what about this? What about that? What about that? And and as a Seventh-day Adventist, we can do that. We can ask questions. We're not a cult. We can say, wait a minute, I don't understand that, or I don't think that's right. And we can debate this among ourselves and disagree agreeably. Then he continues, I looked up Ron Hammer, who is the heaviest German author on Ottoman history, and it is clear that Gibbon made an error which von Hammer and others have corrected. The way Gibbon arrived at his mistake is easily seen by looking at Pausanias' translation of Pacmarius. Gibbon saw July 27th at the opening of the chapter 25, and over in the chronological tables given to Pausanias, he saw the date 1299. Combining these, he got July 27th, 1299, but he failed to note that the chapter began with July 27th, but then went back and dealt with earlier events. These earlier events were the events of 1299. That's the 1299 date in the table given by Pausanias. It was not until 1301 that the Battle of July 27th took place. So here's what Spicer is. He's refuting the 1299 beginning date for the beginning of the Ottoman Empire. He says it's actually 1301. So that means if he's right, and I went online and I read a lot of documents, and they're about 50-50 on this date. I just have to be honest. The documents I read, they were 50-50 on 1299 or 1301. The later ones, pretty much 1301, they believe. Since about this time, Professor Benson received documents showing conclusively that the ultimatum of the powers was not delivered to Pasha of Egypt on August 11, 1840. You may well understand that the brethren had to sit up and take notice. It is remarkable how loath people are to look at facts or to correct anything. So this is Spicer again, that he had records that on August 11, 1840, that nothing happened on that day. There's no treaty signed. The Ottoman Empire didn't fall on that day. So Spicer here is disputing the 1299 date, and this is a high up Adventist official in the church at that time. He's disputing the August 11, 1840 date right here. Now, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Some said you don't know why I'm doing this. Because I need to free us up to take a look at the book of Revelation in a whole new, fresh light. Some of us read the book of Revelation and we get to the trumpets and it's like, oh, then we read, oh, that's all in the past. Seals are all in the past. Everything's in the past. But maybe they're not in the past. Maybe they're just not in the past. We'll talk about that more in a minute. So, the 1299 and August 11, Spicer is presenting documents that those dates are not valid, and they're actually asking the church to correct those mistakes at this time. That's what they were asking. Change Bible readings for the homes, change all our Bible studies, because history doesn't back it up. That's what they were trying to do. They were honest men. They wanted the church just to make these simple changes and just say we just didn't see it right. This is some more here. Before preparing the new edition of Great Controversy, W.W. Prescott, another high official professor, wrote a lengthy list of errors he felt needed correcting. Among these was the historical position taken by it on the French Revolution and on the Sixth Trumpet. Prescott pointed out that there was no evidence the Bible had been banned in France for 3.5 years. In that, since Lynch's prediction regarding August 11 had not only been given after the fact, it was also quite invalid. So he took the August 15 as a fulfillment of August 11. So Prescott is saying, you can't call a prophecy after it happened and say, oh, I told you so. You made the prediction August 11, and if something happened on August 15, you can't claim that as a fulfillment of your prophecy. It's invalid. Your day stands on what you said. So he's challenging now the Josiah Lynch, August 11th. Here's another one here. Osmond became chief or bey upon his father's death, about 1280. Nothing is known for certain about Osmond's early activity. He was the first big leader of the Ottoman Empire who really got its power. So nothing is known for certain about Osmond's early activity except that he controlled the region around the town of Sogut, and from there launched raids against his neighboring Byzantine Empire. The first datable event of Osmond's life is the Battle of Bothius in 1301 or 1302. So now they're challenging Josiah Lynch's 1299 date. So what are these men trying to do? They're trying to fix the errors. That's what they're trying to do. They're just saying history does not match what we teach. So what happens when history doesn't match what you teach? Do you change history? Or do you change what you teach? You change what you teach. That's all these men were just asking. Look at, why just lay it out there and let God work? Why do we have to save face? Why can't we say we didn't get it right? Right? I was a Catholic. I had to admit that I was wrong and what I believed was wrong. I had to do that. I just had to say it's wrong. People don't burn forever, and I'm not going to heaven when I die, and Sunday's not the day, and went to many masses for purgatory to get my grandfather out of purgatory. So I just had to admit it. So that's all these men are just asking, is just, let's just get the dates right and let God work. Because once you get the dates right, then you can move on and really find out what they mean. So it says here, the first datable event in Osmond's life is the Battle of Bumpus in 1301 or 1302, in which he defeated the Byzantine force sent to counter him. And that's from Wikipedia. And it just wasn't Wikipedia. There were other ones had the same date. I don't know, I must have came across maybe 10 different places. And again, they were pretty much split on the date on that. So there are many problems with Josiah Litch's timeline of the fifth and sixth trumpet. There seems to be proof that the 1299 date, which began the 5 months, is an incorrect date. Now there's another problem. As he was dating 1299 to 1840, 1852, in the first week, something happened. There's a 4 on Thursday, but there's a 15 on Friday. So what happened to the calendar then? We all know. They had to make it fit with the planting schedule, so they had to drop 11 days out of it to get the planting cycle in harmony again. So when he did his 1299 to 1840, in 1582, he needed to subtract 11 days, but he gave that actually 365 days. So he was 11 days off on his calculation. So now there's a dispute. He was 2 years off at the beginning of his prophecy. Now there's a dispute that, no, he missed 11 days in 1840. Now, the best I can tell in history is leap year started in 46 BC. You know, leap year, every 4 years you add a what? Extra day. So from 1299 to 1840 is 135.25 leap years he never added in. So if you add in 135.25 leap years and the 11 days in the calendar for 1852, that's 146 days. Now another problem occurs. He used a lunar calendar when he figured out his time frame. The 5 months was 150 years. 1 year was 360 days. A month was 30 days. And he had 1 day that was 391 years, and an hour is 15 days. But when he actually counted the days, he used a 365-day calendar. He didn't use a lunar calendar to actually figure out the timeline. He used 360 days to figure out the times, but when he actually counted from year to year to year to year, he didn't use a lunar calendar, so he mixed the two calendars. If you have a lunar prophecy, can you use a solar calendar? Right? If it's Hebrew and they're on a lunar year, you have to use the lunar calendar. That means about 5 years, about 5 days every year he was off. Also another problem here. Take your Bible, we can read it right here. Revelation chapter 9, verse 14. And this one reads a little differently. This is a New King James than the King James. I'll read the New King James first. It saying to the sixth angel who had the trumpet, release the four angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. So the four angels who had been prepared for the hour and day and month and year were released to kill a third of mankind. So this one says the hour. What's the in English language? Okay, or definite article. Yeah, definite article. Okay, so definite article is pointing to a specific time. That's right. So that's what the New King James says. On the very top is the King James, and the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of men. So when the translators of the King James came to this verse, they didn't give it the most direct translation. It should be the hour here, not an hour, because it's a definite article. Here's what the Amplified Version says. So the four angels who had been in readiness for that hour in the appointed day, month, and year were liberated to destroy the third of mankind. So it says, in readiness for that hour in the appointed day, month, and year. NIV probably has one of the best translations. In the four angels who had been kept ready for this very hour, and day and month and year were released to kill a third of mankind. Now here's the question. Can you have a prophetic timeline with a definite articles beginning? Because like Michael says, a definite article means it's a specific time. No, you can't. You can't put a prophetic time to a definite time period. That God had a time. He knew the time, a specific time to release those angels. So the definite article makes it a particular time, a precise time, not a prophetic time. And the newer translations have it. And you can go check it up in any Greek work that there is a definite article there. So when Josiah Litch made his timeline, he made it a prophetic timeline, but it had a definite article. It's there. Yeah, Michael, it's there. Yeah, it's there. You know, and I also wanted to say, last week I forgot to mention something about the great multitude who came out of the tribulation. And the King James just says, and the great multitude came out of great tribulation, but there's a definite article missing there too. It's the great multitude who came out of the great tribulation. That's what I had up on the screen. So people with the King James probably were scratching their heads saying, why does pastor's Bible have the? Because there's a definite article there. So that group in chapter 7, coming out of the great tribulation, that's why the angel said to John, who are these people? That we needed to get that right. Because chapter 7 is 144,000, then it has the group that came out of the great tribulation. That means that group there is an end-day people group. It wasn't the redeemed for all the ages, or martyrs from the dark ages, because there's only one the great tribulation. So actually in the King James, chapter 7, and then here in chapter 9, is a definite article that was missed. That has actually, in one sense, made it harder for us to actually find the true meaning of or timing of these here. This is what Josiah Litch wrote in 1873 on Revelation 9:15. He's the one who came up with the prophecy. Okay, this is what, 33 years later? He's still pastoring, quite active, still writing, preaching, pastoring. He says the exact hour for the angels to be loosed was what? Fixed. So he understood. He understood that, oops, I really didn't get that prophecy right. That was actually making an application for what it really means. They were prepared, They were prepared for an hour, day, month, and year. That is, the exact time for their loosing was fixed to a year, a month, and day, and year. Now I just had a box pop up on my computer for antivirus. I'm going to try to move it out of the way. I may have to reset this, see if I can move it. Doesn't want to move. Let's see if I can get part of this. Give me a minute here. Okay, sorry about that. That box has locked everything up. So he says the exact hour for the angels to be loosed was fixed. They were prepared unto an hour, day, month, and year. That is the exact time where the loosing was fixed to a year, a month, a day, and an hour. So he got it. It does not end exact period during which they should act. So when people hide behind Josiah Litch, they don't understand that later on in his life he actually fixed a mistake. Now people say, oh, he became a futurist and he never accepted the Sabbath. Well, he's a great, fantastic guy on 1840, but the later stuff he wrote, all of a sudden he's a bum. The Bible said you must prophesy again, and that's what he did. He actually fixed the mistake on the timing, and then he fixed the mistake on the locusts. It says here, the riders had breastplates of fire and jacinth and brimstone. Jacinth is the color of the blue flame of brimstone. The heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire, smoke, and brimstone. Their power lay in their mouths and tails, but the fire, smoke, and brimstone suffocating those they approached. The third part of men was killed. The tails were like serpents having heads, and with those heads attached to the serpent-like tail, they do hurt. It is not said that any of them killed by the tails, but they are hurt by them, and killed by what proceeds out of their mouths. These beings, like the horses and chariots of fire which fill the mountains in the days of Elijah, must be what? Supernatural beings of which heaven and hell are full. So he realized that that trumpet was still future. And that's from Josiah Litch, a complete harmony at the end of Revelation. So in that book, Josiah Litch actually refutes the Ottoman Empire as the fulfillment of the 56 trumpets. Here's what Ellen White wrote about the trumpets in her later life. And these are quotes that are out there. I don't know how many of you are familiar with them. 14 manuscript release, page 287. Solemn events before us are yet to transpire. So they are yet, what does that mean? They are still future. Trumpet after trumpet is to be sounded, vial after vial poured out, one after another on the inhabitants of the earth. So she says in this time frame, she puts the trumpet and vials in the same time frame. Very interesting, isn't it? Now she has another quote here, 15 manuscript release, where she actually gives more detail than in manuscript 14. They went out for a ride, a huge tempest, huge black cloud came, started raining, hailing, pounding them. They made it back to their house, but it was just a rough ride, very dangerous. And that night she's sitting and she's writing and she's going back to that storm and how ferocious it was. She says, "This is the sharpest experience I've ever had in a carriage in a storm. When the blackness deepened with the clouds in the south, I supposed that it would be no ordinary storm that we should have. And I thought of the day when the judgment of God would be poured out upon the world." So now her mind's going to end day events. when blackness and horrible darkness would clothe the heavens as sackcloth of what? Hair. Where do we see sackcloth of hair in the book of Revelation? That's used for the dark day. When the day was dark, the sun became dark as sackcloth of hair. So she's actually putting the dark day in the future, where it belongs. That's where it belongs. So that's Revelation chapter 6, verse 12. Then she continues on. We have no question but our prayers were answered, and the angel of God stood by the horses' heads. Nothing was broken. The Lord preserved us, and his name should be glorified. But I was what? Deeply impressed. I mean, this had to be the Holy Spirit was just opening her mind now to what is going to transpire in the last days. This was deeply impressed. It wasn't just, well, this is just my thought, and I'm thinking, and maybe it could be this, maybe it could be that, and possibly, she says, I was deeply impressed. Or what was she deeply impressed about? My imagination anticipated what it must be in that period when the Lord's mighty voice shall give commission to his angels, go your ways and pour your vials of wrath upon the what? Okay, so now we're in the time of the wrath of God. And then she quotes a Bible verse, thy right hand, O God, shall dash in pieces thy enemies. Revelation 6 and 7 are full of meaning. So what's Revelation 6 and 7? Revelation 6 is the seals. So she's actually putting the seals in the time of the plagues, where they belong. That's where they've always belonged. That's where John puts them. John puts them in the open door. Remember the seals open with an open door? That's 1844. I have, for visitors, I did one sermon on the seals. So Revelation 6 and 7 are full of meaning. Terrible are the judgments of God revealed. The seven angels stood before God to receive their commission. To them was given what? 7 trumpets. So she puts the vials, the seals, and the trumpets all at the end of time. The angel said to John, when the book was bitter in his belly, you must what? Go take some Pepto-Bismol, go to bed, take a nap.
Prophesy again.
That's true, Michael, but you missed a word. You must prophesy again. That's how imperative it was. John, you people, you must, you have to, no other option. You are morally obligated to fix the mistakes. The mistakes in the book of Daniel and the mistakes in the seals and the trumpets. John ate the book and the whole book made him sick. It just wasn't one verse in the whole book. Everything needs to be fixed. You guys just didn't get it. Jesus is becoming a high priest in the judgment. It's not the second coming. Just take these, what you got, it's good. Just transport them over here where they belong. They don't belong at the beginning of the investigative judgment. They belong with the second coming. You have them in the wrong time frame. You got the events right. You just don't have them where they belong. Understand the investigative judgment and place that where it belongs, and then place the seals, trumpets, and plagues where they belong before the second coming. So we see the plagues, the dark day, the seals, the trumpets, all together in the day of God's judgment. Here's another quote. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true? Dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? The white robes were given unto every one of them. They were pronounced pure and holy. So what happens at that time when we get our robes? Yeah, basically close of probation. So They were given white robes. It was not, they will be given white robes. So she understood here. She actually got it. Very interesting. You know what? There's really no doubt for me Ellen White's a prophet. Honestly. You just read her writings, they are just so incredibly rich. Les and I read her every day, twice a day. We read her in the morning. Testimonies volume 6 right now, before breakfast, and we're reading Lift Them Up at night for our family devotion. We've been doing this how many decades? How many books have we read? Unbelievable amount that we have read. And I believe all these things were future simply because the Bible said it, not because she said it. Okay? God gave me these decades later, after I already had worked these out. It took me a long, long time. It was hard. I can't claim any credit for it. God did it. He just worked. There were others who believed this way, who believe that the trumpets are still future. I'm not the only one. There's a growing amount. I met a nice couple out of Australia a couple of weeks ago as I was searching. They had a fantastic document on the trumpets, and I contacted them and been corresponding. They were pronounced pure and holy. It was said unto them that they should rest yet a little season until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. It quotes Revelation 6:9-11. Here were scenes presented to John that were not a reality, but that which would be in a what? Period of time future. So she was putting the fifth seal in a future time frame, and then she quotes Revelation chapter 8, 1-4. They didn't put it in the manuscript, so this gives the reference. And here's the Revelation. So she's taking the fifth seal, they're getting the garments, pure and holy. Okay? It's a time for the future. Well, what time in the future, Sister White, is this for? So Revelation 8, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And he opened the what? Seventh seal, and there were sounds in heaven for about half an hour, and I saw 7 angels who stand before God, and what? What was given to them? 7 trumpets. So she's putting the 7 trumpets in the time frame of the 5th seal for a time future. Is that what she says? That would be in a period of time in the what? Future. So she clearly tells us. She fixed it. She fixed it. Unbelievable. She got it. So she said something earlier. It seemed to fit the context. She came later in her life and says, you know what? I've been impressed that it's something different. So when he opened the 7th seal, there was sounds in heaven for half an hour, and I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and to them was given 7 trumpets. And another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense that he should offer with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. That means the prayers of these people here are the prayers of the people in the 5th seal. Because they were praying, how long, O Lord? So she's actually paralleling Revelation 8, 3 and 4 to the 5th seal. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints ascend before God from the angel's hands. So Ellen White and Josiah Litch fixed the mistakes. They put the trumpets and seals in a future time zone. Future, oh, I said that word, that's a nasty word. Future. We're historians. That pastor, we're going to put soap. There's a difference between future and dispensationalists.
That's right.
And we have forgotten that as a people. Anything future is, ah! You're a futurist. Yeah, I am a futurist. But I'm not a dispensationalist. I am. I believe that these prophecies belong before the second coming. That's what I believe. I can defend it biblically and historically. And what I'm teaching is what many before me have already stood up and said, wait a minute, There's more to the story. I'm going to bypass this chart. We're running a little late here. Well, I'll just leave it up there. I would like to say that the dispensationalists, futurists, they have the timing right. Okay, Ellen White, myself, others put the timing right. But they have a problem. They have a poison pill in their futurist interpretation. Did you know that? So the devil wants us to believe that these prophecies are way in the past. Okay, well, you Protestants, you got the timing right, but I got to mess you guys up too. So here's a chart off the web. Right at the beginning, a little blue word up there. What's that? Rapture. Yeah, tribulation time. Sorry, Michael. Yeah, they have a rapture theory. So they got the timing right, but they got the event wrong. Because they're not even going to be here when the tribulation happens, they believe. And the seals and trumpets teach a tribulation period. Do we believe we're going to be here during the tribulation? Do we? We do. We got that part right. We do. We are very right and correct. We just don't quite have the timing right. They got the timing right, but they got the event what? Wrong. So we're not even preparing for what's coming, and they don't even worry about it because they're not going to be here. Very interesting how the devil works, right? Oh, I'll let you guys get the event right, but I'm going to mess you up on the timing. Okay, you guys screwed up the timing. Well, I'm going to mess you up on the event. There is a war coming. Next week, we'll do the sixth trumpet. There's a war coming that says a third of the earth will be depopulated. We need to be ready. No one's preparing. We're not preparing. So they have the rapture, they have dispensationalists. That means they don't have the everlasting gospel. Every man saved in every generation the same way. They have a millennial reign of Christ on the earth. The devil has just done them in. Right time, wrong event. So, how did Christianity come to this place? I'm going to go to this slide. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who deceives what? The whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out what? So how much of the earth is he trying to deceive? Does that include us? Does that include Seventh-day Adventists? Does that include the Protestants? Catholics, Hindus, Muslims? Agnostic atheists, all the other religions. Yes. Now here's the thing. The Jews thought Jesus was coming as a king. Right? Did they have prophecies saying he was a king? Oh yeah. But did they have it in the right time frame? They didn't, did they? So when Jesus came, were they ready for him? You think maybe the devil would try that on Adventists and Protestants? That he would get us all messed up on the second coming? You think he's done it again? Absolutely, he has. He has. We are following in the footsteps of Israel at Jesus' time. We're just not ready because we don't have the prophecies in the right time frame. The prophecies that tell us what's coming in the future, we put them in the past. So, we need to prepare. Protestants need to prepare, because they're going to be here. If there's somebody on TV watching this, and it's on TV, and we're not going to be raptured out. We're going through the tribulation, and we're going through the tribulation. But we need to be prepared. And the trumpets and seals tells us what is going to happen during that time, what we are facing during that time, what we have to live through during that time. So I want to be prepared. I want to be prepared. And it's important that we get these prophecies right. because a couple slides left. Here's what John says, Revelation 22:18. For I testify to everyone who hears the words of the prophecy of this book, if anyone adds to these things, God will add to him the plagues that are written in this book. So if I'm saying there are things in this book that aren't in that book, I'm going to be added to the plagues. So if I'm wrong in what I'm teaching, oh boy. So if we say things are in the book that aren't there, then we're in trouble. I would say the dispensationalists probably fall in this realm, right here. They're saying there's events coming that really aren't there, and I'm not saying there are brothers and sisters. We're all fighting to love Jesus. We just see things differently. We need to come together on truth.
Amen.
Not on common doctrine. Okay? I'm not talking about compromise. When we go to the whole world, we're going to be hitting. When the loud cry goes, we're going to everybody. And they're God's children. They just don't know. We didn't know. But now there's another warning. And it says here, and if anyone takes away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God shall take away his part from the what? Book of life, and from the holy city, and from the things which are written in this book. So if there are things in this book, and we're saying they're not there, what's going to happen to us? I would say putting these prophecies in the past probably puts us in danger of this. We're taken away from the original historical context. Revelation chapter 4, verse 1 has an open door. That's the open door of the Philadelphia church that God promised to open. That open door is 1844. We can't be consistent as a church and put the seals in the past and hold on to an investigative judgment in 1844 where John clearly says, I see the open door standing open. Revelation chapter 7, the angel comes down and says, hold back the winds of the earth till I have sealed the servants of God in our foreheads and hurt not the earth, tree, or what? Seas. Chapter 7. Chapter 8, fire comes down from heaven, falls on the earth, burns up the earth and the trees. The next one, a mountain burning like fire, falls on the seas and turns the seas to what? Blood. We get to chapter 5. Those locusts are told, don't hurt the people with the seal of God in their foreheads. Chapter 7, don't hurt the earth, tree, or seas. We come to the trumpets, and what's being hurt? Earth, tree, and seas. You know that the sealing has happened. How do you know the sealing has happened? Well, chapter 7 says it's happened, but chapter 5 says it has happened too. They have the seal of God in their forehead. Don't hurt those people. You go after the other ones. And then we get to the sixth trumpet, and probation closes. The earth ceases to repent. So, I just want to encourage you, dig in. Be consistent with the symbols in their time. Compare the symbols within the book. The book of Revelation interprets itself through the symbols. Kindred, nation, tongue, and people, you go through that and you put all of them together. They're all in the same time frame and they paint a picture. Other symbols too. The book of Revelation is a fantastic book. This is the first verse of the book of Revelation. This is the Phillips translation. This is a revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him, so that he might show his servants the things which what? Must very soon take place. The book starts out that the events that he has shown must very soon take place. That means this book is for the final generation. Just before the second coming. Ellen White fixed her view. Josiah Litch fixed his view. Now it's our turn as a people to fix our view. Revelation 1:3. Blessed is he who reads and keeps Blessed is he who reads and those who hear the words of this prophecy and keep those things which are written herein, for the time is what? Near. The time is near It will must soon take place is as clear as keep the Sabbath, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. It is just as clear. The Bible means what it says. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy? Is that clear? We know what that means. This here says, what must very soon take place. So the book of Revelation, this is not a long ages book. It's a book for the final generation, just before Jesus comes. That's not hard. We believe that. The book of Revelation will be fulfilled before Jesus comes. Just more of it than maybe we thought goes into that time frame. And it says for the time is what? Near. Now don't say to me, oh, a day is like 1,000 years of God, 1,000 years is like a day, so it can be either way. Who gave Jesus the book? God gave it to Jesus, who gave it to the angel, who gave it to John, who gives it to us. Who only knows the day and the hour? So who gave the book of Revelation? And if he says it's near, there's no shadow of weariness or turning with him. There's no iniquity in him. When he says it's soon, it's soon. When he says it's near, it's near. We have to take it as it reads, or we just can't understand the book. Does God mean what he says? So this isn't Steve Kaiser talking. It's not even Jesus talking. It's not even the angel John talking. This is a message directly from God to his children in the last days. There are events that will transpire just before the second coming, and it's going to be near, it's going to be soon, and it's not long ages. So anyways, thank you so much for hearing me out. I need to do this for me, because when I say it, I go home and I look at what I say to see if it holds water. Because I'm examining myself, because I don't want to be on the wrong side. I want to be in the truth. Don't you? I want to encourage you, dig into the book. Just dig into the book, have your computer open, compare the symbols, timing. You'll be amazed how God will just work on your mind and help you understand that book. Yes, lead us for lunch. Let's have our closing song.